The forbidden auction begins in the darkest corner of the galaxy, on a hidden space station floating near a dead star. Something rare was about to happen. The grand auction house, built with black metal and guarded by robots with laser eyes, was full of strange creatures from many worlds. Tall insect-like aliens clicked their claws. Fat, slug-shaped nobles whispered in fear. Even the cold, crystal-skinned traders kept their distance. The air was thick with tension. A deep voice echoed through the hall. "Ladies and gentlemen, and those beyond gender, welcome to the forbidden auction." Everyone grew silent. Eyes turned toward the stage. A spotlight lit up the center and the crowd leaned in with curiosity. An old alien with 3 eyes and golden robes stood behind a podium. He cleared his throat and spoke again. "Tonight, we present an item that has not been seen in centuries. An item that is banned in every known system. An item that can destroy empires." Gasps filled the room. A group of young aliens laughed nervously, but their leader slapped them quiet. A large cage covered with a dark cloth was pushed onto the stage. Guards stood around it, holding energy spears. One guard trembled slightly. The cloth moved a little. Something inside was alive and waiting. The auctioneer raised his hands. "Behold, the last of a dangerous species, feared by all, hated by many, but still valuable beyond measure." He pulled off the cloth. Inside the cage sat a human. He was not chained, though his hands rested calmly on his knees. His clothes were torn but clean. His eyes, sharp and cold, scanned the room without fear. Not a single muscle moved. He looked calm, too calm. One alien in the back whispered, "They say humans destroyed 5 star systems in one war." Another replied, "They're extinct. This must be fake." But the human looked real. Too real. The auctioneer spoke again. "This is no copy, no clone. This is a true human, born from the last breeding program on old Earth before it was turned to dust." The crowd stepped back. Even the boldest buyers stayed quiet. "No one has ever dared to buy a human," said the auctioneer. "Not in 1,000 years. They are too smart, too strong, too unpredictable." He paused, then added with a smirk, "But perhaps one of you is brave enough." Silence. Then a deep laugh echoed from the balcony. Everyone turned to look. A tall figure stepped forward, dressed in royal armor made of silver and green. Her long cape floated behind her. Her skin was dark blue, her eyes glowing gold. She wore a crown shaped like a rising star. The crowd froze. It was Queen Zalara, ruler of the Emerald Empire. Feared, powerful, and always full of surprises. She looked down at the human. He looked back, still calm. Their eyes met for just a second. Something passed between them. Something silent, something old. The queen raised her hand. "I will claim the human." Chaos. Voices screamed. Bidders protested. One alien shouted, "You'll doom your empire." Another cried, "You can't control a human." The auctioneer's hands shook. Your Highness, do you understand what this means?" Queen Zalara smiled. It was not a friendly smile. "I understand more than you ever will," she said. "Mark him sold." The cage door opened. Guards stepped back quickly. The human stood, slowly, calmly. He walked out of the cage like a shadow rising. He did not speak. He did not bow. He just stood beside the queen. She turned and began to walk away. He followed her. The crowd watched in silence. As the queen exited the hall, a young alien reporter whispered into her device, "This is history. No one dared to claim the human. Until now." But deep in the queen's ship, in a private chamber, the human finally spoke. "You know what I am," he said. The queen nodded. "Yes. And I know what you can become." He looked at her with the same calm eyes. "Why me?" she answered with no hesitation. "Because I don't want a weapon. I want a partner, Outside, the galaxy was changing, and no one, not even the human, knew what was coming next. The Queen's hidden motive, the Queen's starship, Emerald Requiem, moved silently through the cold darkness of space. It looked like a blade made of glass and starlight, cutting through the void. Inside, royal guards stood at attention, but their eyes betrayed fear, not of the Queen, but of her newest guest, the human. He sat quietly in a private chamber, not chained, not locked. The room was large, filled with soft lights and alien art, but he barely noticed it. His eyes stayed fixed on the reflection in the window, on the stars beyond. For years he had been locked in labs, treated like a beast, poked and studied. Now he was free, but only in name. And his savior was a queen from a species he had never trusted. He didn't speak. Not until the door opened again. Queen Zalara entered, walking with slow grace, like someone who knew every eye was watching her, even in private. She dismissed the guards with a single look. When the door sealed behind her, silence filled the room again. The human finally turned to face her. "Why?" The Queen paused, then she smiled, not with kindness but with purpose. "Because the galaxy fears you," she said softly. "And I need that fear." He raised an eyebrow. "So I'm a weapon to you." "No," she said. "You are a story, a ghost, a myth, brought to life." She walked to the center of the room and poured herself a drink from a silver flask. Then she offered one to him. He didn't take it. "What do you know about humans?" he asked. "More than most," she replied. "And less than I'd like." She tapped a button on her wrist. A hologram lit the room, footage of ancient battles, grainy old war clips, human soldiers in thick armor fighting alien armies. Sometimes they won, sometimes they died, but always they fought with fury, not just strength, but purpose. "Your kind once made the galaxy tremble," she said. "But then, you vanished, and the silence scared people even more." He studied the footage. Some of the soldiers looked like him. "They said we were too wild to survive," he muttered. "That's what they want others to believe." She replied, "But I've seen the truth. Your mind, your instincts, your will, they weren't weaknesses. They were warnings." She turned off the hologram and stepped closer. "My empire is dying," she said quietly. "From the inside, traitors, cowards, politicians who only smile and lie." The human tilted his head. "And you think I can fix it?" She leaned closer. "I think you can shake the stars." Meanwhile, in the shadows of a distant moon, a secret meeting was happening. 7 alien leaders gathered in holographic form, speaking in codes and whispers. Their faces were hidden behind masks. "She has the human," one said. "Foolish," another replied. "He'll kill her. Or worse, he'll change her." A third voice growled, "We must act before he corrupts her mind." "It may already be too late," said the first. "She bought him in front of everyone. Some already call her the Queen of Fire." "Send assassins," said the fourth. "Use her own people if needed." The meeting ended, and the stars grew colder. Back on the Queen's ship, the human was testing the ship's systems. He wasn't trying to escape. He was watching, learning. A young officer approached him. "You're not allowed to touch that." He looked at her, then slowly walked away. The officer turned pale and quickly left. Even without speaking, he made people nervous. His silence was louder than most men's shouting. Later, the Queen invited him to a war council. Many of her generals objected. "He's dangerous," said one. "He's not one of us," said another. She listened, then said only 5 words. "He saved my life yesterday." Everyone stopped. "You didn't tell us," one muttered. "He didn't have to," she replied. "He acted faster than any of you." The generals sat down, silent. That night someone tried to kill her. A silent blade, a masked assassin, a strike from the shadows. But the human was already there. He moved like wind, fast and brutal. When it was over, the assassin lay broken on the floor, his weapon snapped in two. The human handed the queen the blade and said only, "Your security is weak." She looked at him. "You never sleep?" "Not around liars," he said calmly. In the days that followed, rumors spread. Some said the queen had fallen under human mind control. Others claimed she was breeding humans in secret. Some feared a new empire, ruled not by alien laws but by human rage. But inside her chambers, the truth was simpler. She sat beside him one night, both watching stars pass by. "You're still not sure if you trust me," she said. "I don't trust anyone," he answered. "Fair," she replied. They sat in silence for a while. Then he asked, "Why me? There were others in labs." Her voice dropped. "Because you didn't break." He turned to look at her. Her eyes, glowing gold in the dark, showed no fear. "They tortured you," she continued. "They starved you. They tested your mind. And yet, here you are, thinking, watching. Still, human." He said nothing. "I don't want a puppet," she whispered. "I want someone who remembers what it means to fight for more than just survival. Someone who can remind this galaxy what your kind really stood for." He stared at her for a long moment. Then, for the first time, he asked a question of his own. "What do you want to build?" She smiled. A future no one thought possible. What the human can do, they had seen him. Quiet. Calm. Silent. But now they were beginning to understand. He was not just a human. He was the last proof that humanity had never needed gods. Because when pushed far enough, humans became gods themselves. The ship's training chamber was massive, a floating arena designed for alien warriors from across the Queen's empire. Weapons of all kinds lined the walls. Gravity fields could be adjusted for every species. Many young soldiers had trained here for years. But now, they watched from behind protective glass. Inside the arena stood the human. No armor, no weapons, no help. Facing him were 3 royal guards in full combat gear. Zalara's order. "Let them test him," she had said. "See what he's made of." The guards circled him, confident. Bigger. Stronger. Faster. At least they believed so. The human didn't move. Not a single step. Not even when one guard rushed forward, swinging a plasma staff at his head. In one breath it was over. A block. A twist. A knee. The guard dropped. Second attacker. Faster. Smarter. She came from behind. He spun, caught her arm mid-air, and gently placed her on the floor. Unconscious. The third dropped his weapon before the fight even started. No words. No anger. Just silence. From behind the glass, General Scar watched with disgust. His scaled fists clenched. "He embarrasses your soldiers," he said to Queen Zalara. "No," she replied softly. "He reveals the truth." "He's manipulating you," the general hissed. "Humans are liars. Killers." The queen tilted her head. "Yet he kills less than you." Scar said nothing more, but he would not forget this insult. Later that night, the human stood in the ship's tech bay, surrounded by blinking lights and alien consoles. Engineers worked around him, speaking in hushed tones. He approached a locked terminal, one that required 5 security levels to access. They told him not to touch. So, he touched. Within minutes, he bypassed the system. Alarms flashed, but the firewalls fell. The chief engineer, a nervous, 4-eyed technician, stared at him. "How did you learn our language?" she asked. He replied, "You printed your system manuals in 6 languages. I read them." "In 2 days?" 1.5. The queen arrived shortly after, informed by ship command. Instead of anger, she looked impressed. "You're dangerous," she said. "You knew that when you bought me," he replied. "I bought nothing," she said. "I made a gamble." He looked at her for a long moment. "And if you lose?" she smiled. "Then the galaxy loses with me." But it wasn't just his strength, it was what he saw, what others missed. One day, he walked past the war room. Something caught his eye, a map of recent raids. Small colonies, unimportant to most, but the pattern was wrong. He entered without asking. Generals objected. "You don't belong here," said one. He ignored them, walked to the table, and moved 3 pins. "They're surrounding you," he said. "What?" a general barked. "You're being flanked. These attacks aren't random. They're drawing your ships away from the core systems." The room went quiet. Solara stepped forward. "How sure are you?" 95%. "What about the other 5? He looked her dead in the eye. "Hope." Hours later, reports came in. A hidden fleet had moved into the Queen's territory, just as he predicted. Her army had been one step away from disaster. "How did he see it?" a commander whispered. "Because humans don't just fight," she answered. "They study." But not everyone welcomed him. Whispers spread across the ship. "He's controlling her. He'll betray us. We should act before it's too late." The most dangerous whisper came from General Scar. He had seen the Queen change. She smiled more often now, but it was a different smile. Cold, sharper, like a blade being sharpened. Scar remembered the old days when power came through fear, not mystery. And now this a creature had become her shadow. So he made a choice. That night the human was in the observation deck, staring out at a red dwarf star. Alone. Quiet. He heard the footsteps before they reached him. Scar, followed by 2 guards. The general didn't waste time. "You're poisoning her." The human turned slowly. "No." "You want the throne." He blinked. "No." "Then why are you here?" A pause. Then the human replied. "Because she remembers what everyone else has forgotten." "And what is that?" "What it means to be afraid and still move forward." Scar growled and stepped closer. "I don't care what you were, this empire belongs to us." The human stepped closer too, no weapons, no armor. "Then hold on to it," he said, "with both hands." Scar hesitated, then turned and left. No fight, not today. Later, the Queen met with the human in the strategy room. She studied his face. "They fear you more each day," she said. "They should," he answered. "Even me?" she asked. He didn't smile. "Especially you." She nodded as if she expected that answer. Then, without looking away, she asked, "Are you ready?" "For what?" Her voice dropped to a whisper. "To show the galaxy what a human really is." Enemies in the shadows. The attack began with silence. No warning. No lights. No sound. Just darkness. One moment the Queen's flagship floated above a quiet nebula. The next, its systems went dead. Doors locked, engines failed, power drained. Then, from the black void outside the windows, came a shape, not a ship, not alive. Something worse. Hours earlier, the Queen had held a meeting in the royal chamber. Her war council sat in a circle. The room shimmered with tension. No one smiled. News had reached them. Another outpost destroyed. No survivors. No signals. Just empty buildings and burn marks. "This isn't piracy," said Admiral Vox. "This is coordination." "You think it's the blood-borne alliance?" asked another. "No," said the Queen. "This is older." The human stood at the edge of the room, silent, watching. Then he stepped forward. "You're under attack by ghosts," he said. The room fell quiet. "Ghosts?" the general mocked. "Not real ghosts," he replied. "Old enemies. Hiding in the shadows. Studying you. Waiting." "Waiting for what?" "Weakness." The Queen's eyes narrowed. She looked at him closely. "You've seen this before." He nodded once. "Back when we still had cities." Meanwhile, deep within the outer systems in a forgotten bunker beneath a dead planet, a secret council met. Not holograms, not politicians, but warlords, the kind who ruled with silence and blades. They were not happy. "She has united 5 border worlds," said one. with the human at her side. "He is gaining followers," said another, "even outside her empire. This cannot continue." They turned to the darkest figure among them, a being made of wires and bone, face covered in cracked glass. "You said he was broken," one hissed. "He was," replied the figure, "but something in her woke him. Can you kill him?" The being didn't answer. Instead, it opened a clawed hand. In its palm, a black cube, a signal, an old code. And far away in the stars, something answered. Back on the Emerald Requiem, the Queen stood in her private chamber. She stared at a photo in her hand, old and faded. It showed her as a child, standing beside a tall human officer in ancient armor. He smiled in the photo. He was the reason she believed in humans. He had saved her family once, and then he vanished. Now she had found another, and she had risked everything to keep him. But loyalty always had a price. The door opened behind her. "You're quiet tonight," she said without turning. "Someone is lying to you," the human replied. She turned. "Who?" "Someone close. How do you know?" He held up a small device, a hidden transmitter. It had been placed in her chair. "They're listening," he said. "They've always been listening." That night, the lights on the ship went out for exactly 7 seconds. When they returned, everything seemed normal, until the bodies were found. 3 guards, poisoned, 1 engineer, shot, the ship doctor, gone. No alarms, no cameras, no sounds. Just death in the silence. The Queen stood over the bodies, her jaw tight. "They're already here," the human said beside her. "How?" "The same way humans once did it," he said. "With patience." The Queen ordered a lockdown. No one in or out. No communications. No hyperspace jumps. But it was already too late. In the engine room, 2 crew members unlocked a hidden crate. Inside it, metal, moving, alive. The assassin droid unfolded, scanning the room. Then it vanished into the walls. It wasn't coming for the Queen. It was coming for the human. He was in the training chamber when the attack came. No warning, just heat and speed. The droid dropped from the ceiling, claws out, blades spinning. It moved faster than light. It had studied his moves. It knew his tactics. It didn't matter. He ducked the first strike, rolled left, grabbed a staff from the wall. It wasn't a fight. It was a message. Whoever had sent the machine knew him. He destroyed it in 30 seconds. But not before it spoke. A broken, static voice. "You should have stayed in your cage." The Queen reviewed the wreckage. Alien tech. Off-world design. Custom-coded. Not pirates, not rebels. Something worse. "This wasn't meant to kill you," she said. The human nodded. "Just to test me." She looked at him carefully. "Who wants you dead?" He didn't answer. Instead, he whispered, "Whoever still fears what humans can become." That night, alone in her room, Queen Zalara recorded a private message. "If I die, let it be known that the enemy was not at my gates, but in my halls. And if he survives, let him finish what I started. His name is unknown, but his story will burn into the stars." She never told anyone she made that recording, but she knew the time was near. In the lower decks, General Scar met with a shadowy figure. "The Queen is lost," he said. "She dreams of empires that cannot exist." The figure replied in a whisper. "Then, it's time we remind her. Who built this one?" Scar clenched his fist. "The human dies first." On the observation deck, the human stood alone. Stars flickered. The galaxy moved, and in the blackness, something stirred. Ships, cloaked, silent. Fast, they had finally come. Not to negotiate, not to threaten, but to erase him from history. And the war was just beginning. The truth about humans. They always told stories about humans. Monsters in uniforms, fire in their blood, machines at their command. Children across the galaxy were raised with one warning: never wake a human. But no one ever explained why. Until now. The Queen's warship floated above a forgotten planet. Virex 9, once a research colony, now abandoned. No lights. No signals. No life. The Queen stood beside the human on the bridge, staring down at the dead world. "What happened here?" she asked. He didn't answer at first. Just looked quiet. Still. Like something in him was remembering. Finally, he spoke. This is where the last lie was told. They landed near an old structure, half-buried, silent, covered in ash and dust. It wasn't alien. It was human. The symbol on the wall was faded but still visible. UHC, United Human Colonies. Name long erased from records. Inside, lights flickered as the Queen's engineers brought systems back online. The human moved without speaking, as if his feet remembered the halls better than his mind did. They found a locked room. A vault. A black door with scanners older than any tech the aliens knew. "What's behind it?" asked the Queen. He stepped forward, placed his hand on the scanner. It blinked. Unlocked. Inside were records. Thousands of them. Old videos, files, mission logs, war data, DNA archives, and the truth. The first video played. Fuzzy, broken, but real. Group of human soldiers stood on a battlefield, smoke rising behind them. One soldier, a woman with scars across her face, stared into the camera. "We told them to leave us alone," she said. "They didn't listen. So now, we burn together." The screen flashed. Another log appeared. This one showed a galaxy. Map, dots marking battles, evacuations, failed peace talks. Human colonies destroyed by alien alliances, millions dead. They were not monsters. They were the hunted. The Queen stepped back, shaken. "They attacked you first?" The human nodded. "They feared our growth, our speed, our refusal to kneel. So they united against you?" "Not just united," he said. "They cheated. They poisoned planets, used bioweapons banned by their own laws, and the humans fought back." "No," he whispered. "We adapted." More logs played. Humans using machines that read enemy thoughts. Ships flying without fuel, powered by dark matter. Scientists turning sound into weapons. The galaxy had never seen anything like it until they panicked and nuked Earth itself. The final log was a farewell message. A man in a captain's uniform looked directly into the camera. His eyes were tired, but proud. "We were never angels," he said. "But we built worlds, we saved lives. And when they turned on us, we didn't run. If any of you are watching this, remember, we didn't lose. We chose not to become like them. We buried our own legacy. To protect the stars." The Queen sat in silence, for the first time in years. She was speechless. "They told us you were destroyers," she said softly. He looked at her. "We were protectors." She asked the question she feared most. "What does that make us?" He didn't answer. Above the planet, a fleet appeared. Cloaked ships. Quiet, waiting, not firing, not attacking, just watching. When the Queen's ship returned to orbit, a message came through, not in any known language, but the human understood it. "What does it say?" the Queen asked. His voice was cold, distant. "They know I remember now." "Who are they?" He turned away from the screen. "The ones who wrote the lie." Back aboard the Emerald Requiem, the Queen called an emergency session with her inner circle. Some were afraid, some were angry, some were ready. "This changes everything," said General Vosk. "If the galaxy learns the truth, they'll riot," said another. "They'll turn on each other. Every species has human blood on its hands." "So what do we do?" someone asked. The Queen didn't blink. "We tell them." Gasps. "You want to start a war?" "No," she said. "I want to end a 1,000-year lie." Outside, in the ship's lower deck, the human stood alone. He had seen his people erased from history. Now, he had seen why. They weren't destroyed by weakness. They were erased because they were too strong to control, too free to serve. And now he was the last one left. He wasn't angry. He wasn't sad. He was ready. Meanwhile, in the hidden council chambers of the galactic elite, panic spread. "He knows," whispered a voice. The vault was opened. "How many files?" "All of them." The room fell silent. Then the oldest voice spoke, a voice that had once stood on the ashes of old Earth. "We must end it before he speaks." On the Queen's ship, the humans sat in the data room, watching the logs again. Faces of soldiers, families, teachers, builders, dreamers. Not monsters. Just people. People like him. His hands trembled slightly. Not from fear, but from memory. He whispered their names. Not out loud, but in his mind. A promise. "I will not let them forget you." The Queen entered. He didn't look at her. "You're quiet again," she said. "I remember too much," he replied. "I understand," she said. "No," he said. "You believe. But you'll never understand." He stood. "Because you never had to bury your entire species in silence." She stepped closer. "But I chose to stand beside one." He looked at her. For the first time, he truly saw her. Not as a queen, but as someone who had made the most dangerous choice of all. To believe in something the rest of the galaxy feared. To believe in him. He nodded. "Then we show them," he said. "Show them what?" she asked. His answer was quiet, powerful. What a human really is. The rise of the last humanit began with a whisper. On a mining moon in Sector 7X, a worker played an old file, an ancient video buried deep in a locked terminal. He watched a human speak, not a soldier, not a king, just a man, scarred by war, saying, "They tried to erase us. They failed. We are still here." The worker didn't speak for a long time, but that night, he painted a symbol on the wall. A hand, holding a broken crown. 3 days later, on a prison asteroid in the Velar Belt, a riot broke out, but it wasn't just a riot, it was a rebellion. Alien prisoners refused food, refused orders, and on the walls of the courtyard in blood and ash they wrote, "He remembers." In the shadow of these ripples, aboard the Emerald Requiem, the last humans stood before the Queen's High Council. Their faces showed fear, not of war, not of enemies, of him. "The people are chanting your name," said General Vosk. "They call you the lost son." "They believe you're a prophet," added another. "Some think you're a weapon. Others, a messiah." He didn't respond. He didn't need to. But the Queen watched him with different eyes. Not as a threat, as a flame she had lit, and could no longer control. "You didn't ask for this," she said to him privately later. He stood at the observation deck again, staring into the void. "I never asked to be the last," he replied, "but they made me that." "You think this is fate?" she asked. "No," he said. "This is consequence. Word of the truth. The erased history of humanity had spread through black markets, stolen channels, secret data nodes. People shared the old recordings like treasure. Soldiers who once hunted humans now questioned their orders. And in the ice, capital world of Xenareth, a statue of an alien war hero was torn down, replaced by a simple engraving. We were wrong. Panic hit the Galactic High Council, not because a human was alive, but because millions were starting to wish more were. The same governments that once silenced his kind were now splitting apart. Some wanted to crush the rebellion early. Others whispered, "What if he's right?" The enemy moved quickly. Dark fleets rose from hidden systems, silent destroyers, no flags, no nations. The old powers had no names, only missions. And Mission 1, erase the last human. They didn't send diplomats. They sent a fleet. 12 warships dropped from warp near the Queen's territory. No messages, no demands, only one warning. Surrender, the human, or burn with him. On the Queen's war deck, her generals argued, "We can't fight them and hold the throne. Your people won't support war for one man." "We're already at war," the Queen said. "We just didn't admit it." She looked toward him. He stood beside the tactical map. Not speaking, You're too calm, General Scar growled. Should I scream? The human replied, You think you can fight fleets with silence? He stepped forward. His voice was cold, steady. I think silence is what buried my kind. Now it's your turn to listen. He studied the enemy fleet's pattern, saw the old weaknesses, remembered the training his ancestors had passed down, not through words but through instinct. And then he spoke his first command. Split your forces, 3 jump gates, bait them toward the sun's shadow. When they realign, hit them with a gravity spike. The room was quiet. The generals stared. That's suicide, one said. No, the Queen whispered. That's human. The battle became legend. The enemy ships arrived, confident. By the time they realized the trap, half of them had drifted into the event horizon of a dying sun, spiked and frozen. The other half never returned. No survivors, only wreckage. Across the galaxy, footage spread. The last human had led a fleet to victory, and he had done it not with numbers, but with understanding. In the weeks that followed, dozens of outer colonies broke their alliances and pledged loyalty to the Queen. But not because of her crown, because of the man beside her, the man who had once been a prisoner, now a general, now a symbol. But symbols are dangerous, even to allies, especially to allies. On the capital world of Garen Prime, a secret vote was taken. A group of senators decided to place a bounty on the human's head, a bounty worth more than an entire moon. They called it the necessary price of peace. They feared what he represented, not chaos but change. When the Queen learned of it, she stood in front of her court furious. You placed a bounty on the man who saved your empire? No one answered, so she gave them one chance. Cancel the bounty, she said, or I cancel your bloodline. They canceled it, but the fear did not fade. One night, on the bridge, the Queen approached him. They still don't trust you, she said. They never will, he replied. Then why fight for them? He looked into the stars again. Because I remember what came before. What did come before, she asked. His voice was quiet. Hope, and so the galaxy held its breath. Governments broke. Alliances shifted. Enemies rose. Followers gathered. And in the center of it all, the last human stood like a storm. No crown, no army of his own, only history, and the fire of a species erased. But not forgotten. He was no longer a survivor. He was no longer a shadow. He had risen. And now the galaxy had a choice to make. Follow the old gods who ruled with lies, or follow the last human who stood with truth. The Queen's final move. Empires fall. Legends fade. But some truths burn forever. The galaxy was bleeding. Worlds once united under flags now flew symbols of rebellion. Truth had broken through the silence, and from that truth had risen a man, not a king, not a prophet, just the last human, and because of him, everything was changing. But change always demands a price, and the debt was coming due. In the Galactic Senate, a colossal space station orbiting a dying star, the high houses gathered, hundreds of species, thousands of lies, and in the center, silence. A vote was about to be cast, an emergency declaration of war against the Queen of the Emerald Empire. Not for crimes, not for conquest, but because she refused to surrender the one thing they feared more than war itself. The human, the Queen, didn't wait for their vote. She walked into the Senate Hall herself, alone. No guards, no escort, no army. Only her voice, and her choice. As she entered, gasps filled the chamber, holograms flickered, senators whispered, assassins shifted in the shadows. She stood in the center of the spiral hall and raised her voice. Not loud, not angry, just certain. You want him, murmurs. You want his silence, his death, his erasure. Some stood to shout. She didn't stop. You say he brings chaos, that he disturbs order. But what you truly fear is that he reminds your people who they once were. A silence deeper than space followed, then she whispered, "Free." From a balcony high above, a masked figure lifted a small device. A signal pulsed. Far away, in the Queen's home system, the attack began. Stealth cruisers broke through planetary shields. Capital ships dropped from warp in perfect formation. Operation Duskfire had been launched, not to destroy the Queen, but to remove the human. Quick, clean, final. Aboard the Emerald Requiem, alarms screamed. The last human stood on the command deck, surrounded by chaos. "They're bypassing our mainline defenses," shouted an officer. "They're jamming the warp exits." The human didn't blink. He moved like stormwater. Quiet, fast, unstoppable. "Shut down autocannons," he said. The commander stared. "What?" "Override targeting, go manual. But they'll breach us." "No," he said. "They think we'll act like them." He took the helm himself. The man they feared, the man they hunted, was now piloting the ship they couldn't destroy. In the Senate, a message played behind the Queen, unauthorized. Live feed, the Emerald Requiem, under attack. Cameras flickering, and the human standing in front of the crew, giving orders, saving lives, directing a counterattack like he was born in the war he never asked for. "This," the Queen said softly to the Senate, "is the monster you fear." Silence. Not because he destroys, but because he refuses to die. On the battlefield, enemy ships surrounded the Requiem. Blasts ripped through the hull. Outer decks collapsed. But then, the impossible happened. The Requiem vanished. It didn't flee. It didn't warp. It disappeared. Folding through a micro-black hole field the human activated using ancient human code buried in the ship's core. When it reappeared, it was behind the enemy fleet. One by one, their ships fell. No mercy, no message. Just truth, delivered in fire. And then came the Queen's final move. She returned to her empire's capital world and called a broadcast, not just to her people, but to every corner of the galaxy. Her face appeared on billions of screens. Behind her stood the human, silent, unmoved. The Queen spoke. "For centuries you were told to fear them, to erase them, to forget them." She paused. "But I remembered. And I chose not to fear." Her voice hardened. "This man is not a weapon. He is a reminder of what you did and what you could become." Then she did something no ruler had done in 10,000 years. She stepped down, removed her crown, and placed it at the human's feet. Gasps echoed across stars. "Rule with him," she said, "or fall without him." The human picked up the crown, not to wear it, but to carry it. He turned to the cameras, speaking for the first time to a galaxy that had once buried his name. "I am not your king," he said. "I am not your savior. I am your mirror. And if you do not like what you see, change it." Millions listened, not because he demanded it, but because they believed it, because deep down, every species knew. The silence was over. The lie was dead. And the last human had risen. Not to rule, not to conquer, but to remind them of the cost of forgetting the truth. Epilogue years passed. Systems rebuilt. Old empires crumbled. New alliances rose. No statues were made of the human. No cities bore his name. But in every academy, his message was carved in stone. Power means nothing if it's built on lies. He vanished after that. Some say he returned to old Earth, now a scorched, haunted ruin. Others say he became part of something bigger, an order, a movement, a myth. But the galaxy never forgot him, because he never asked to be remembered. He only asked to be heard.